Long before humanity walked the earth, before pyramids, kings, or even gods as we know them, there came a ship through the void. It did not carry explorers. It carried engineers, builders of worlds, masters of energy, custodians of the cosmic code. At the center of that crew was Enki, not a warlord, not a conqueror, but a genetic artisan, a divine scientist. Known in ancient Sumer as Ea, he whose home is water, Enki was the first Anunnaki to descend to Earth. He landed not as a king, but as a strategist sent to save Nibiru. His mission: to mine gold, purify Nibiru's failing atmosphere, and secure Earth's resources. But beneath the official mission was another goal, one known only to the few: to build something new, a fusion of heaven and earth, a being that could inherit both. Enki was the son of Anu, the High King of Nibiru. But unlike his half-brother Enlil, Enki was born of Antu, a concubine of lower status. This would forever define his destiny. Though Enki was firstborn, it was Enlil who was granted the title of heir, because his mother was of purer royal blood. Thus began one of the greatest rivalries in cosmic history: Enki the builder versus Enlil the commander. One sought to uplift, the other to control, and the battleground would be Earth. Enki's first base was Eridu, home in the faraway, an advanced outpost built in what is now southern Iraq. It became the first city of the gods, filled with canals, energy channels, and crystalline control rooms. Beneath it, deep within Earth's crust, Enki began constructing the Abzu, a vast underground facility where raw gold was extracted, processed, and launched back to Nibiru. Here, Enki's knowledge came alive. He wasn't just a miner, he was a sacred technologist. He possessed the Mi tablets, living codes etched with the blueprints of creation, encoded sound, sacred geometry, vibrational harmonics, and DNA schematics, what ancient priests would later call magic. But Enki knew better. It wasn't sorcery. It was science so advanced, it appeared divine. The minds of the Abzu echoed with struggle. The lower caste of Anunnaki, called the Igigi, were reaching a breaking point. The labor was unending, the gold deep, the earth hostile. And then it happened. The Igigi rebelled. They cast down their tools. They marched to Enlil's compound in the north and demanded release. Anu, hearing the unrest, descended to Earth. A decision had to be made, swiftly, carefully, permanently. And it was Enki, silent and calm, who stepped forward. Let us create a worker, one suited to this earth, one born to serve and learn. Thus began the most forbidden experiment in human history. In the deep caverns of the Abzu, Enki and his half-sister Ninhursag, a master healer and biologist, selected a subject, a resilient hominid already adapted to Earth, Homo erectus. With skill known only to the gods, Enki used his Mi tablets, sacred resonance, and advanced biogenetic chambers to fuse the Anunnaki genome with that of Earth's native being. The first hybrids were unstable. Some lacked speech, others endurance. Many were sterile, some were too independent. Dozens of iterations failed. And then, Adamu, the first viable hybrid. He could labor, he could learn, he could obey, and deep within him, a spark. A memory not of Earth, but of the stars. He was placed in the Eden, an enclosed habitat zone near Eridu. There he was studied, observed, and eventually joined by a companion, Ti-Amat. not born, but cloned, a perfect genetic counterpart, crafted in the womb of an Anunnaki goddess. Together, Adamu and Ti-Amat became the templates for modern humans. Their children were less divine but more adaptable, fertile, creative, curious. The Anunnaki had succeeded. But Enki had done more than create slaves. He had seeded potential. He had left behind a mirror. Because while Enlil saw a tool, Enki saw a future equal, and that made him dangerous. The habitat zone were placed would later be mythologized under many names. The Eden in Sumerian, Eden in the Hebrew Bible, the place of the seeds in older African oral traditions. It was a controlled environment, lush, secure, and sacred. But something happened that the tablets don't record plainly, only in riddles and fragments. Adamu and Ti-Amat woke up. They began asking questions. They learned language faster than expected. They grew emotionally, spiritually, dangerously. And Enki, whether by design or accident, gave them access to the Me tablets. He may have believed they deserved it, or maybe he wanted to accelerate their evolution. What the Sumerians called the gift of the gods was later mistranslated as a curse, the fruit of the tree of knowledge, not an apple, but DNA activation, the unlocking of higher cognitive functions. It was then that Enlil arrived. Horrified that the humans were becoming aware, intelligent, autonomous, he issued a command: expel them. Adamu and Ti-Amat were cast out of Eden, not for disobedience, but for evolving too fast. In this moment, the myth of the fall of man was born. But what really happened was not a fall. It was an escape from captivity. The humans left the Anunnaki's protected lab and entered the wild, vulnerable but free. And Enki watched, silently, knowing that what had been set in motion could not be undone. The age of the gods' control was beginning to fray. Enki is often symbolized by water, wisdom, and the serpent. But somewhere along the way, the serpent became the villain. The Bible portrays a cunning snake who tempts Eve with forbidden knowledge. Mainstream theology calls him Satan, the deceiver. But ancient Sumer tells a different story. The serpent was not the enemy of humanity. It was the liberator. The symbol of the serpent, the double helix, the genetic spiral, was the mark of Enki. He who gave humans the spark of consciousness, the ability to ask why. It was Enlil who wanted blind obedience. It was Enki who gave us awareness. Later texts would conflate the serpent with evil, but to the Egyptians, Enki was known as Ptah, the great engineer. To the Greeks, as Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. To the Gnostics, he was the true god behind the illusion. In every myth, one pattern repeats. A figure who defies higher authority to bring knowledge to humanity. That was Enki. Not a devil, a rebel god, a teacher, a protector. And for that, he was banished, demonized, and erased. But never fully, because his symbols survived. The serpent staff, the water of life, the fish suit of Oannes, the caduceus of medicine, all remnants of his presence. Modern occult traditions, secret societies, and esoteric schools, from the Hermetics to the Freemasons, still trace their origins to Enki's underground temples. The knowledge schools of Atlantis, the mystery rites of Egypt, the brotherhoods of Sumer and Akkad, all carried fragments of Enki's teaching. Because while Enlil ruled with kingship, Enki ruled with truth. The earth was shifting. Tensions between the Anunnaki clans, Those loyal to Enlil and those loyal to Enki were reaching a boiling point. Then came the catastrophe. The Sumerian texts call it the deluge. The Bible calls it the flood of Noah. The Greeks, the flood of Deucalion. The Maya, the great inundation. Every culture remembers it, a global cataclysm, volcanic eruptions, melting ice sheets, crashing oceans. But behind it was a decision. It was Enlil who gave the order. Let humanity perish. They had grown too numerous, too loud, too rebellious. The gods were at war, and humanity was in the crossfire. But once again, it was Enki who defied the decree. He whispered to a man, Ziusudra, later known as Utnapishtim, and to some, Noah. He told him to build a vessel, not a wooden boat, but a subterranean capsule, an advanced life preservation unit. Inside it, genetic material, sacred texts, the ME tablets, and knowledge to rebuild civilization. But Enki saved more than humans. He saved the blueprints of Atlantis, his sacred city of the stars. Atlantis was not a myth. It was an Anunnaki outpost, a fusion of celestial alignment, crystal energy, and resonance chambers. A temple of learning and frequency. When the flood came, Atlantis sank, not just physically, but dimensionality. Some say it still exists, hidden beneath the ocean. Others say it moved to a higher vibrational plane, waiting for the worthy to return. Fragments of its knowledge survived. In Egypt's temple of Edfu, in the scrolls of Thoth, in the Stargate lore of Tiahuanaco and Göbekli Tepe, all encoded, all waiting. Enki ensured that the light would not go out, and those who followed him, the priest kings, mystics, builders and sages, kept his flame alive. Because after the flood, a new war began. Not of weapons, but of memory. Diablo and the flood, the earth was quiet. The Anunnaki had withdrawn. Some returned to Nibiru, others remained in the shadows, guiding events from afar. But their legacy was not left to ruins and stories. They left behind bloodlines. Two primary lines emerged, each carrying divine code. From Enlil came the kings, rulers, commanders, the wielders of divine right. From Enki came the sages, builders of temples, founders of mystery schools, the bearers of the serpent knowledge. These bloodlines did not vanish. They spread from Sumer to Egypt, from the Indus Valley to Mesoamerica. The Sumerian kings list boasts reigns of tens of thousands of years. The Egyptian pharaohs claimed descent from gods who came from the stars. The Olmec, Inca, and Maya all told of sky beings who taught them time, architecture, and language. At the center of these teachings was always the same core: harmony with nature, understanding of frequency and sound, the balance between above and below. This was Enki's doctrine. In hidden temples, under Giza, in the Himalayas, beneath Lake Titicaca, priesthoods kept the secrets alive. They became the mystery schools of Egypt, the Essene orders, the Magi of Persia, the alchemists of Alexandria, and eventually, the Templars, Rosicrucians, and Freemasons. Each carried fragments of Enki's knowledge, but the deeper they dug, the more they became hunted. Because those who followed Enlil's model of control saw knowledge as a threat. A secret war began, not in the skies, but in scripture, academia, and politics. Books were burned, scrolls hidden, symbols inverted. The serpent, once the healer, became the enemy. The feminine divine, once revered, was made subordinate. The balance, broken. But the flame did not go out, because Enki did not just leave knowledge in temples. He encoded it in the human genome itself. dormant strands, unactivated potential, waiting for the right time. Enki may have left the world stage, but he never truly disappeared. Legends from across the world whisper the same prophecy. The watersmith will return when the time is right. From the Andean highlands to the Dogon of Mali, from the scrolls of the Dead Sea to the Hermetic texts of Egypt, the same symbols reappear: water, stars, and a key of knowledge. Some believe Enki's presence is felt in dreams, through sudden insights, downloads, visions. Others claim he communicates through symbols, awakening those who are ready to see. And there are more unusual clues. In the 20th century, Nikola Tesla claimed that information came to him like a flash, that he was only a receiver, not a creator. Many believe Tesla, like the ancients, tapped into the ME frequency field, the living code Enki once used. Modern DNA research has revealed that 95% of our genome is considered junk by mainstream science, but esoteric traditions say otherwise, that within this junk lies a multidimensional library encoded with ancestral memory, telepathic capacity, light-based communication. Some even claim that meditation, sound frequency, and focused intention can awaken parts of this code. What if that was Enki's final gift? Not a monument, not a machine, but a seed within us. Today we face a new crossroad: environmental collapse, artificial intelligence, genetic modification, a race to control information, biology, and even thought. It mirrors the stories of old, of the gods creating, debating, and dividing over what humanity should become. But Enki's voice still echoes. Do not fear knowledge, fear its misuse. Let those with wisdom rise and lead. Because the battle is no longer about gold or kingship or temples. It is for the soul of humanity. And in this war, Enki may not fight with weapons, but with whispers in minds ready to remember, with light in DNA ready to awaken. This is Hidden Origins TV, and today, we revealed the untold legacy of the Watersmith, the god who dared to see humans not as tools, but as future gods. Subscribe and share, because next, we expose Enlil, Lord of Command, the enforcer who tried to erase us, and the war between the builders and the destroyers. Stay tuned.